Democratic nominee for Texas Comptroller Sarah Eckhardt. Thank you so much and welcome back to Eye on Politics.
It's great to be here with you, Jack.
Nice to see you again. So, as you know, on August 1st, your competitor, Republican Don Huffines, will become the acting Texas Comptroller. And I'm wondering what you think about that.
Well, it is startling, frankly, that this close to the election, someone would be installed who actually received less votes than I did in the primary. And also, we really need to respect the will of the voters here. So it's the voters who get to decide who their comptroller is, not the governor.
And how does that hurt your campaign at all, considering that he'll be in office?
I don't think it does hurt my campaign. Just because Abbott is giving Huffines a participation trophy does not mean that he's a winner. And I think it does give the electorate the opportunity to see who this guy actually is. He's the guy who purchased the Epstein Ranch, who wants to gut public school funding, who wants to doge the state of Texas, who's even pledged to secede from the union. And I think that the voters deserve to know that they have a real choice in this race.
And you brought up the Epstein case, the fact that his ranch in New Mexico was part of that before the estate. Why is that something you bring up, and how does that relate to this race, do you think?
It's important to know, I mean, we really do need to have someone who's going to be a watchdog in this position. This and the Attorney General's office, the Comptroller and the Attorney General really are the watchdogs for the people of the state of Texas. And it's concerning to have an individual who's purchased a crime scene in an adjacent state in which the Attorney General in that adjacent state is saying that there is obstruction in getting appropriate information from the federal government regarding investigations into crimes that occurred at the Zorro Ranch. To have somebody who is involved in the ownership of a crime scene is concerning for an office of this type.
But he doesn't face any accusations of wrongdoing in this.
No, there's not been any accusations to date, and my understanding is that he was cooperative in uh, a um, a search of the property more than 3 years after it was purchased in a blind LLC through which no one knew who owned it.
And so let me ask you, you also brought up the fact that Huffines wants to doge the state of Texas. When you hear that, what does that say to you, and why do you believe people be concerned about that?
Well, doging should leave a bad taste in people's mouth after our experience at the federal level. It did not root out corruption and it did not reduce cost. It created chaos in federal government and seriously curtailed the ability of the federal government to actually serve the people of the United States. And doging state government would do the same, but worse, because I believe we are 45th among all of the states in our investment in actual Texans. We spend less on Texans than almost any other state in the union. So to further doge state government, making it even less capable of responding to the needs of Texans, I think should be a concern for everyone. He's also expressed a desire to embrace AI, replacing comptroller employees with AI, and also turning the auditing function of the comptroller's office away from tax cheats and onto government itself. We already have pretty significant oversight inside Texas state government, and I'm very appreciative of that. We should have robust oversight, and the comptroller's office is absolutely part of that. But we cannot expect a comptroller who's been appointed by the governor to actually look at corruption inside state government. He's not going to bite the hand that pats him on the head and tells him he's special.
So what do you want to do with the office if you are elected?
If I'm elected, when I'm elected, we will do a robust and honest audit of the voucher scheme, showing who benefits most, least, and not at all from this program. We're about to get statistics out of the comptroller's office as required by the law at the end of July, at the beginning of August. It's important to take a robust look at that because it could be and probably will become a runaway subsidy, much as we've seen the runaway subsidy on the data centers. This could create a program that balloons from a $1 billion program to a $5 billion program by 2030. We've also seen the impact on our public school system with more than 130 schools closing across the state, 9 school districts being taken over by state-approved contractors, and a ballooning operational deficit across our public school districts. This is deeply concerning. This is one of the biggest deliverables and most important deliverables of state government.
And so going back to the education freedom accounts, the taxpayer financed program, uh, that's going to be up to lawmakers to decide whether to expand it past its program. So
Yes.
what, so how will you be a part of that conversation, if at all?
The best policy is the best informed policy. And the comptroller's job is to fully inform the legislature of who actually is benefiting most, least, and not at all from the voucher program, and how it will become a runaway program if we turn a blind eye to how this could become a full-on subsidy for private school generally, rather than a tailored program specifically for kids who have special needs and special educational needs. I think what we're going to see when we get this report at the end of July or early August, that actually it's a fairly small percentage of voucher recipients who actually have children with special needs utilizing these vouchers. And so the legislature needs to know this so that they can right-size the program and also appropriately fund our public education system that educates more than 95% of school children in the state of Texas.
And with regards to public schools, you brought up the fact that a number of school campuses are closing in districts. We've seen that here in North Texas. It's happening in other parts of the state. And I know you blamed this on the uh, taxpayer financed education savings accounts. But I'm wondering, are you going to, if you get elected, are you going to do a study on exactly what is causing all this? I know that Democrats have said the state is not fully funding education. The governor has said, obviously, and other Republicans said they are fully funding education. But I'm wondering, are there other aspects, other factors at play here as far as we've seen, the birth rate drop, we've seen people staying in their homes instead of perhaps downsizing because interest rates went back up, home prices are up, and so
Mhm.
people are just staying in their homes longer. I'm wondering, do you think that those are also contributing factors to this?
There are certainly contributing factors. Vouchers is only one of those factors. The charter school movement is a factor. Decreasing enrollment is a factor. The immigration purge nationally is a factor. All of these are factors, and they need to be looked at. Numbers don't lie. Let's just look at the numbers and let's look at what's driving our crisis in school finance and fully inform the legislature so that it can make the best decisions for the people of the state of Texas. It is the state's obligation under the U.S. Constitution to adequately fund a universal system of public education for every child in the state of Texas. And to do that, we need to understand why we have a ballooning operational deficit across the state of Texas for our public schools.
So that's something you intend to do if you get into office.
Absolutely. And to put it in perspective, the voucher program is currently capped at 1 billion. We believe, and although the TEA does not keep this statistic, and this is an important statistic, we don't know in state government what the actual aggregate operational deficit for our school districts is. but it is probable that the amount that we're spending in vouchers could eliminate the operational deficit for every school district in the state.
So that $1 billion that's coming out of the general fund, you're saying if the state took that $1 billion that came out of the general fund to fund this program and put it into schools instead, that would be the solution to at least some of or a majority of uh, the school's financial problems.
Well, a lot of people say that the voucher program is a completely separate funding source, and that's true. It is a separate account, but money being fungible, this is all money from the general fund. So we do need to take a look at where we are prioritizing those expenditures. I don't believe that long term it's in the best interest of the state of Texas to fund both a public education system and to subsidize a private school system. I don't think that that is financially feasible for the state of Texas, and I think we should be honest about that.
You brought up data centers before. I know you were at a news conference yesterday, and I know that there's a lot of calls from Democrats and Republicans are not happy about data centers, particularly in rural areas, as we've seen. And one of the things that you brought up, and certainly we've heard from other Democrats and Republicans, is these state sales tax incentives
Mm-hmm.
for data center developers, which were passed in the 2013 legislature and are obviously still in place. And when we went back and we looked at the records from 2014 through this year, those sales tax incentives that taxpayers are paying have amounted to $2.8 billion.
Yes.
And just in the next 2 years alone, it's forecast to go up to $3.2 billion. So obviously, you've made clear you want to get rid of that too.
Yes, this is a runaway entitlement program for data centers. Incentives are an important tool to have in the toolbox when you're trying to seed a new industry. And I don't quibble with the fact that that can be a very valuable tool. But this is an incentive that has ballooned to a size that I think we're getting bipartisan agreement that this entitlement program needs to go away. You mentioned the statistics over the life of the program since 2013 when it was implemented. But if you just look at the time period between 2022 and 2024, there was a five-fold increase in the amount of the incentive on an annualized basis. And since 2024, we're on track to see an additional seven-fold increase. So in 2022, I believe the annual incentive was worth about 33 million más o menos. And now it is up to about 1.6 billion on an annualized basis.
I guess you could say it's really tracked with the number of data centers being built, and now you add AI to the mix, and this is how life is going these days. Everything is in the cloud,
Mm-hmm.
and so here we are with this situation.
And so let me put that number in perspective. If we're looking at a $3.6 billion over the biennium in sales tax subsidy to data centers, if we put that money toward the Texas Water Fund instead, that would be a 60% increase in the Texas Water Fund for that particular biennium. That would be a really wonderful investment in the people of the state of Texas. And it would help everyone, not just data centers.
And let me ask you just to wrap up, and I appreciate your time, Senator, and that is, do you think because the Senate race right now between Democrat James Tallarico and Republican Ken Paxton is at a dead heat when you look at the average of polls, that perhaps the fact that that race is so close, that's going to give you and other Democrats on the statewide ticket a bump?
I do. There's a great deal of enthusiasm among Democrats, certainly, but I'm also seeing a great deal of enthusiasm among independents, among libertarians, and even among those who are sometimes Republicans, but sometimes vote a Democratic ticket in the primary. So I think that there's a great deal of engagement, and I frankly think that we are in a political realignment that is very healthy for our state. One party rule isn't good for us, whether it's Republican or Democrat. One party rule has a tendency to breed inefficiency at least and corruption at worst. And so I think people are looking to end one party rule and get back to a political space where dissent is embraced and we actually consider all ideas, because I think people have pretty much had it with the corruption of one party rule.
Democratic nominee for Texas Comptroller, Sarah Eckhardt. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jack. Really appreciate it.
We appreciate it.